Hey everyone, welcome to Liberal Breakdown. And today we need to talk about something that's really been causing some serious tensions between the US and Canada, and frankly, between all of us who care about diplomacy, fairness, and economic stability. I'm talking about President Donald Trump's recent decision to impose tariffs on imports from Canada, Mexico, and China. And the worst part? It's all being justified with claims about national security like illegal immigration and drug trafficking. But let's be real. This is just another political play, and it's hurting everyone, especially our neighbors to the north. These tariffs are hitting key Canadian industries like steel and aluminum. These aren't just numbers on a page. They represent workers, families, and communities that rely on these industries. Trump's actions are creating a massive disruption. And for what? To make a point about national security? It's just creating unnecessary friction between two nations that have historically been allies, both politically and economically. And let me tell you, the consequences of this could go far beyond just trade. We're talking about the weakening of long-standing ties between our countries and potentially years of rebuilding trust.
A lot of people say water is going to be the new war between states, and we happen to have a lot of it in Canada. The United States depends very, very heavily on oil from our biggest oil-producing province of Alberta. If that were to suddenly stop, and the Premier there has brought up that possibility, gas prices will go through the roof in the United States. And there's a feeling in Canada right now where, sadly, and we all have very, very strong ties, especially human ties with the United States, that the only way the Trump administration is going to get the message is by inflicting pain on them. Already, many premiers have taken matters into their own hands.
Now, in response to this, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is taking a stand. He called a snap election for April 28, 2025, saying that Trump's trade war is the most significant crisis of our lifetimes. And I have to agree, this is not just a trade dispute. This is about sovereignty. It's about Canadian self-determination. Carney is making it clear, we need a strong mandate to push back against these actions. And frankly, I think it's time for Americans to support our neighbors in standing up for their rights too. Public sentiment in Canada is seriously strained. Many Canadians feel betrayed, and honestly, who can blame them? Trump's rhetoric, suggesting that Canada could become the 51st state, is fueling anti-American sentiment and undermining the trust between our countries. This kind of talk doesn't help anyone. It only deepens the divide. But what's worse, it could lead to long-term economic and diplomatic damage that both nations will feel for years to come. And then there's Mike Myers, and now he's using his platform to call for Canadians to fight back. In a recent Liberal Party election ad, Myers used the phrase elbows up, a tribute to hockey legend Gordie Howe, to rally Canadians to stay strong in the face of Trump's aggressive policies. And you know what? I love that. It's a call for resilience, for unity in the face of adversity. Trump's tariffs are more than just a trade issue. They're a symptom of a larger problem, one where diplomacy and international cooperation take a backseat to self-interest and division. We need to stand up for the values that made the U.S. Canada relationship one of the most stable and beneficial alliances in history. Protectionism, isolationism, those are not the answers. What we need is collaboration, respect, and a shared commitment to the future.
That the president is going to impose what they're calling secondary sanctions on Venezuela, secondary tariffs, I should say, on Venezuela, using the tariffs as if they are a sanction. In this case, the president posting on social media, any country that purchases oil and gas from Venezuela will be forced to pay a tariff of 25% to the United States on any trade they do with our country. All documentation will be signed and registered, and the tariff will take place on April 2nd. So what the president is saying here, David, is that because of immigration and legal concerns he has with Venezuela and the way they're negotiating with the United States, any country that does business with Venezuela will see that 25% tariff kick in on April the 2nd. All of this will be papered and legal on that date.
So, President Donald Trump has announced that starting on April 2nd, 2025, the United States will impose a massive 25% tariff on imports from any country that buys oil or gas from Venezuela. Let that sink in for a second. The U.S. is basically punishing countries around the world for engaging in energy trade with Venezuela. And this is all part of the Trump administration's broader plan to pressure Venezuela, which they accuse of fostering criminal activities, specifically the notorious Tren de Aragua gang. Now, you might be asking, why does this matter? Well, this isn't just about Venezuela. The tariff is actually a secondary tariff, meaning it doesn't just target the countries buying Venezuelan oil and gas directly, it also affects countries that even allow the import of Venezuelan petroleum products, or anything made with Venezuelan petroleum. Now let's break this down a bit. China was the largest buyer of Venezuelan crude oil in 2023, so this tariff could disrupt trade relationships between the US and China, and hurt countries that are heavily reliant on Venezuelan energy exports. This isn't just a political move, folks. It's going to cause a ripple effect in the global energy markets. And who do you think will be most affected? The workers, the families, the economies of these countries who need affordable energy? It's really the people who end up paying the price here, but wait, there's more. In addition to these tariffs, the Trump administration is also deporting Venezuelan immigrants that they associate with the Tren de Aragua gang. The administration claims it's all about national security, but we all know this is also about playing into fear-mongering. Deporting people who are already here seeking safety and work, not because they've done anything wrong, but because of their nationality or the tattoos on their bodies, is just plain wrong. And you know what? This isn't even close to being the way to fix the issues we have with Venezuela or its government. The reactions to this have been mixed. Some people are already warning about the economic repercussions of these tariffs. I mean, think about it. We're potentially isolating ourselves even more from key international trade partners. And it's not like this is just a trade issue. This is about diplomatic relations. How will other countries view the U.S. when we're imposing tariffs on any country working with Venezuela? It's just adding fuel to the fire of an already fragile international relationship. So, as we watch this policy unfold, I want you to think about this. Who wins from this policy? It's not the workers, it's not the average people in these countries who just want access to affordable energy. It's a win for fear-based politics and a way to push forward a national security agenda that targets the vulnerable. We need to be thinking about smarter, more compassionate solutions to these global issues. What do you all think? Will this tariff actually make a difference? Or is it just another political move that harms innocent people and causes more international tension?
And meanwhile, CBS News has learned that 2 White House officials will visit Greenland this week as President Trump calls for a U.S. takeover.
CBS News has learned that National Security Advisor Mike Waltz will travel to a U.S. military base in Greenland this week. President Trump has repeatedly said he wants the U.S. to take over the territory, which is within the Kingdom of Denmark.
We need Greenland because of national security, international security.
The White House says Second Lady Usha Vance will also travel to Greenland this week to visit cultural sites.
The man is back at it again, and this time he's setting his sights on Greenland. Trump wants to take over Greenland, and when I say take over, I mean he wants to buy the whole territory, from Denmark. And it's not a new idea. He first floated this idea back in 2019, but now, in 2025, he's doubling down on it. Now let's break this down. Greenland is strategically located in the Arctic, which of course has massive geopolitical and resource implications. It's got oil, minerals, and even potential military uses, so I get why it's important. But come on, really, here's where I get pretty frustrated. The fact that Trump is still pushing for this after it was rejected by Denmark and Greenland before just shows how out of touch he is. Greenland is an autonomous territory, meaning they have their own government, and they manage their own affairs. And to be honest, it feels a little bit imperialistic, doesn't it? Like we're living in the 19th century again, and we're just supposed to buy territories like they're on sale at a yard sale. This kind of expansionist thinking is not what America needs. We should be focusing on global partnerships, diplomacy, and respecting the sovereignty of other nations, not trying to buy them like real estate. I mean, can you imagine if another country tried to pull this stunt with one of our territories? The pushback from Denmark and Greenlandic leaders isn't surprising. They're making it clear that this isn't just some real estate deal. This is about respecting their independence and their right to decide their future, not having another country swoop in and dictate the terms. And honestly, the fact that Trump wants to pursue this in 2025, when the world is dealing with so many bigger issues like climate change and international conflict, it just feels tone deaf. If you want to stay up to date on this situation and more stories that matter, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I see you next time.